Welcome back to Sailing Saoirse. We are trying a few things differently today with Karen, Mum, Momager, Momster, the all-round mum on Saoirse. She feeds us, she waters us, and she keeps us all going, pretty much. Today we just wanted to take you through. We had our first winter storm come through Lungabarn, but it also wasn't as big as we had thought. The weather was very windy. We woke up to a lot of wind. I think it must have been gusting at about 40 knots.
Yeah.
Because by the time we had all gotten out of bed and got the wind instruments going, it said 31. And it had died down, but then with the first initial 5 or 10 minutes, the gusts were
hectic, yeah.
Pretty scary. Cleo was actually one of the ones to wake us up.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bit scared of the storm, but
as anybody who's been on a yacht knows, and the noise of the rain on the fiberglass is very loud. It's almost like being in a tin roof house. So it's very noisy, lovely noise, I think.
Yeah, I love it.
But very noisy. So we woke up. The rain must have hit about 6 in the morning.
I think
it was lighter rain. Somewhere around there. And we all like dashed out of bed at the same time. Like, oh, it's here. It's amazing how it just suddenly started.
Yeah. Everybody's up after a big wind storm. Oh, we were on wind guru now. I'll show them the evidence.
Really, really cold.
Yeah, I think it was the first of our really icy weather. We aren't all prepared with winter clothing.
Yeah. Well, you've lived all your life in Durban, which is tropical. I've lived in Zimbabwe and here, and Durban, so very, very hot weather. So for us, the Cape weather is
our
nasty.
Minimums in Durban were probably about a really, really bad drop would be about 12.
Yeah. Which you'd get maybe 3 days of the year.
Yeah.
And we'd all think we were dying.
And here, I think the minimum that day was 7.
Yeah.
So,
and it's going to get worse.
Yeah, that's just the beginning of winter. So,
which I know to people overseas who get snow, there's like nothing.
Yeah.
But we're sissies. Like the sunshine and tropical weather.
So we had our first winter storm, and we were probably told a week prior, or we saw a week prior on Wind Guru and Windy, and then also the marina management informed us.
To batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
Because they know that it's our first winter storm that we're experiencing here too.
But also with no one being allowed into the marina because we are in a resort, and resorts are supposedly only supposed to open up in level 1. And we're only in level 4. No one is really able to come and check on the boats and yachts, so they did a really good job at walking the docks and making sure everyone's boats were secure for the storm. So we kept an eye on everything.
Yeah, there were a couple of boats that called in. They ended up having to re-tie up, and we called the management about 1 or 2 that we were concerned about where they were actually hitting up against the dock.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to mess with those. We thought they could see to all that.
We were told it was going to be huge, so we were like excited. But also apprehensive as to how Saoirse would manage it.
Always worried about water leaks.
Yeah, there's still teething issues. The marina is quite well secured by a big wall, and we're in a lagoon, so
we're quite protected.
Yeah. was cloudy, not cloudy, sunny, a little bit misty, cloudy, sunny throughout the day, but the temperature pretty much stayed the same, with constant wind between, I'd say, 20 and 30 knots throughout the day. With the constant weather changing, rainbows came and went throughout the day. With the cold weather, we decided we would feed the seagulls a bit more because no one wants to go fishing in that kind of weather for lunch.
It's ridiculous how we think that everything needs to be fed.
So we fed Grumpy, and none of his friends wanted to come out for breakfast, so...
But remind everybody that Grumpy's the seagull.
Grumpy's the seagull. Everyone should know by now that Grumpy is the seagull. So we fed him. Well, we put out a whole bunch of bread, but thinking that about 306 seagulls would be pulling in, and only Grumpy showed up, so as you can see by the following video, his neck is just like, because he thought he could take it all on.
Decided at the moment we don't have any enclosure on our bimini, which would be a huge help with the winter weather coming. But as a temporary solution, because of the lockdown, we can't get our hands on any sunbrella to start. I want to try and make it myself, so I need to source some sunbrella, and at the moment we can't find that. So Tony Boock very kindly gave us some PVC type canvas that he said to us we can do something temporary with in the meantime, with the start of winter looming. So first attempt ever, I decided to start with the Dodger. It's solid white, so we can't see through it, but we're not going anywhere at the moment, so that's fine. Very simple little project, just took a lot of measuring and re-sewing once or twice to get it to fit exactly right so that it wasn't flapping around in the wind, and we're quite pleased with how it came out. It really is just a temporary solution for the moment to stop rain blowing through the front gap between the bimini and the saloon lid into the cockpit. So it just will keep the entrance of the saloon drier. We do have a little bit of the PVC left over after we had done the Dodger, and Tony's actually said that he could get us enough to do an entire enclosure. But I found it very difficult to sew. It's very heavy and very stiff. So I've got a nice heavy duty Singer sewing machine, this has been my first project on that, so we're very chuffed. But I found it was very hard to maneuver large pieces of the PVC around.
But also it was plasticky, so the teeth in the sewing machine that would generally guard the material wasn't guarding it, it was just sliding.
Yeah, so the foot pressure isn't... If I had a walking foot, I think it would work much better, but I don't have a walking foot yet. So it was a bit of a learning curve. It worked. I'm going to use a bit more of the PVC that's left and maybe try to do another side panel, which we can use on the side of the helm, which is where the worst of our weather comes from.
We're just busy fitting our grab rail on the port hand side sugar scoop, starboard side sugar scoop, and that's going to go like this on these two spots where there's a lot of seeker at the moment, and basically that's just going to make it a lot easier to climb up onto the sugar scoop if you're not using the ladder on the port side.
And what else?
And so I have this theory that when we hook up with a big fish and place my feet like this, because this fish is going to be that big, you see that we're going to have a little bit of foot leverage here so that I can winch the thing and sitting on the sugar scoop here. We had water going in here and we couldn't figure out where, so we went a little bit gracious on the seeker, and as you can see we've got quite a lot that's actually squeezed out. So I'm going to show you how to try and clean that now, because obviously you don't want to leave that to dry and then get it off. It's a lot harder to get it off when it's dry. So here's how we do it. You take a little bit of green soap, like dishwashing liquid, Sunlight, or boat soap or any kind of soap, and you just squeeze it over there. And what that does is it takes away the stickiness of the seeker. So then you can just peel it off like that, and it gives you a very neat finish. So just take a little sugar stick like this, or an ice cream stick, and cut it flat, and it just peels the seeker off, and it just makes it a lot neater. Neater than having a seeker that's squeezed out all over your show.
Yeah, just leave them there. Just leave them there.
Is that how you're reeling in the marlin?
Onto the topic of feeding everything. When we got to Mykonos, we noticed that there was a lot of feral cats. Well, not a lot, a couple of feral cats, and they used to hang out at the restaurants at night time, and I would imagine get a lot of scraps, because whenever we walked through there late at night, they were just sitting around waiting at the restaurants. With the lockdown, obviously the restaurants aren't operational. Mykonos has a feeding scheme for the feral cats, so they are being fed. But we just, especially when there's bad weather, we're just OCD about feeding things. So,
but that comes from our background of our rescue and rehabilitation from back home when you did.
Yeah. I've done rescue and rehabilitation since I was in my early 20s. So the kids have just grown up. Denver and Tegan have grown up in a house full of animals constantly. It was never an organization. We just did it by ourselves in conjunction with the local vets, and had lots of animals, wild and domestic animals, come through. We'd like to do an episode on that at some stage, but from that, Denver and Tegan have both been indoctrinated about feeding, keeping things fed and healthy. So Colbin and Denver have been fishing in the marina. It gives them something to do, and when they do catch, we cut the fish up and feed it to the ferals on top of what the Mykonos is giving them. And we've gotten to know the cats. Denver's named them all. It's pretty much his job. He takes the fish up every night, and they come running to him now for the fish. And we've got a couple of video segments of very cute little kittens that come down, and a couple of other cats. And it's amazing how you see different characters, and it's just us. We find a backstory to everything. Denver, Colbin still loves fishing as well, but they spend every moment that we're not working, especially come sunset time, they go out fishing, and Denver can sit out there till we've got to honk the horn on the boat to tell him to come back for dinner, because he just heads off with his fishing rod and fishes until he can't fish anymore, and then comes back and cuts the fish up and takes them up to the different feral areas here. The highlight of his day at the moment is going up and feeding the different cats. Haven't quite figured out how we would do it just yet, but I'd like to integrate animal care into our travels when we do travel overseas. I know a lot of the islands have very poor veterinary care and very few spay and neuter situations. I don't quite know how I'm going to work it out yet, but I would like to work into our travels having maybe a non-profit or something that we could raise funds to spay or neuter dogs or cats around, even if it's 1 or 2 on an island when we're traveling around. If we could stop the unwanted pregnancies and births of millions of cats and dogs, it goes a long way to stopping additional animal neglect. So I'd like to concentrate on somehow doing spay and neuter, raising funds, like I say, to get a vet on any place to spay and neuter, even if it's 1 cat and 1 dog at a time. I think it makes a difference.
During this cold time, Cleo opted for her basket and blanket.
I think we've mentioned in an earlier video, if we could get away from here and around to Durban, which for people who don't know South Africa is very tropical compared to the Western Cape. So it just is a familiar place that is way better conditions to be in through the winter. So it's familiar and it's home and it's great. So we had never planned on going back to Durban. It's obviously on the other side of the country, so totally away from the direction that we want to go in when we do our transatlantic crossing. But we figured with so many months to kill between now and the end of the year, which would then be our ideal crossing time again, we might as well go back to home, and it will be a very good shakedown trip. It's quite a lot of mileage. I'm not quite sure. I think it was about 900 nautical miles or maybe more. So just a perfect trip to use as a shakedown and really test our systems, and hopefully all will be good. But if it's not, that's the time we want to be testing it, when we are at home ground.
The only thing that rain was good for was making Cleo walk a little bit faster after her toilet break. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, please give it a like, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. We love to hear from you guys.
So if you're enjoying our videos and want to catch them every week, subscribe, hit the little notification button, and you'll get a notification each time we put up a new video.
She's new at this, but she's good. We'll keep you.
Oh, thanks.
Don't forget to find us on social media. On Facebook as Finding Freedom, and Instagram is Sailing Saoirse.